Hi everyone. This video is a book review about a book that my mother recently gave to me to add to my children's book collection. And the title of this book is called First Light, First Life, a worldwide creation story. And it was written by Paul Fleischman and illustrated by Julie Pashkis. I don't know if it's Pashkis or Pashkis. But yeah, this story is 24 different cultures, one universal story, discover how the world began. And it basically talks about or takes excerpts from different creation myths from around the world. And there are a few reasons why I really liked this book. I really liked the illustrations of this book. But one thing that really stood out to me was I had actually had this idea of doing a book like this a couple of years ago, but I didn't know how, and I decided to put that idea aside. So I'm glad that somebody actually decided to do something like this, and I really enjoyed reading this. Now, as far as my mother giving me this book, I was actually kind of surprised because my mother is very religious. She's either like a Hebrew Israelite Baptist, non-denominational mixture of religion. I don't think she actually read this book. She just saw a children's book and gave it to me because she knows I collect children's books. If she had actually read the book, she probably would have thrown it in the trash, honestly. But I'm glad she gave it to me since she knows I like reading and art and various things. So before I get into my review of the book, let me tell you a little bit about the author and also the illustrator. So the author is Paul Fleischman, and I'm going to go to his website. And Paul Fleischman has a lot of books. He has books that are picture books, plays, poetry, nonfiction, middle school, young adult fiction. He's very diverse in what he writes about. Some of the books I've either heard the titles of or I've seen them before. The only title that confuses me is the one called Saturnalia. And I'm like, I swear Saturnalia meant something else, but apparently it's like two casts of characters inhabit Boston Street, one by day, one by night. And it's dark deeds and robust humor mixed in a tale set during the Puritans' Indian Wars. But I swear Saturnalia meant something else. But okay, I'm going to skip over that. Now, Paul Fleischman, I'm looking for his bio because he is one of those old school children's books authors that their books are staples in classrooms. So he says, I grew up in Santa Monica, California, hearing my father, Sid Fleischman, read his books aloud, chapter by chapter, as they were written. We've both won the Newbery Medal, he for The Whipping Boy in 1987, I for Joyful Noise, Poems for Two Voices in 1989. That's really interesting. It's almost like the Pinckney family, where it's the father is an illustrator and the son is an illustrator too, but they have two different styles. So he says, when I was 19, after 2 years of college in Berkeley, I took a cross-country bicycle and train trip, ending up living in a 1770 house in New Hampshire, the years there leading a modified 18th century lifestyle, wood heating, no electricity or phone, kindled an interest in the past and led to the historical fiction I'd later write. Interesting. So I thought about teaching history as a career, but decided to bring it into my books instead. Over the years, I've dealt with the Puritans, Indian Wars, Philadelphia's yellow fever epidemic, the Civil War, and the naturalists John Townsend and Thomas Nuttall. I've been drawn to the ancient Greek as well. Bits of classical mythology pop up throughout my work. Music has been a constant inspiration for my books. So, he says, from the duets and Joyful Noise to the symphonic 50-voice Seek. I played piano as a child, joined recorder consorts in college, and later played in string quartets. In the past 20 years, I've been drawn to the America's most loathed quartet of instruments, the accordion, banjo, bagpipes, and bassoon. But I like the banjo. And I do like the accordion. So yeah, he just has a very interesting history. He says, I have two sterling sons and a book-devouring stepdaughter, all grown. After sojourns in many parts of the country, I'm back in California living with my wife in Monterey. So I don't know how old this biography is, but that's what it says on his website. And he's just very, very interesting. And I can't wait to read more of his books. I want to read some of his plays, and I want to read books that have music going along with it as well. So next we are going to go to the Illustrator. And I really love the Illustrator's work. I don't know what it reminds me of. It's like folk art, but then parts of it remind me of those little German paintings, or like the Pennsylvania Dutch symbols that they would place on barns. And what's interesting about Julie Pashkis's page is that she also has where you can download free coloring pages. So if you have a child, or if you just love coloring, you can go to her website and you can download some coloring pages to color. They're very, very neat patterns. So she has books, she has cards, paintings, and quotes. Now, some of the books I've come across, but I don't know if it was when I worked in a bookstore or if I've just seen it in passing. There's one called Through Georgia's Eyes, which I recognize, and it's about Georgia O'Keeffe. There's another that is Pablo Neruda. I recognize that one. And yeah, it's really, really, really pretty. I'm loving her illustrations. I'm almost inspired to do something in her style. So let us go to her bio. She says, I have been writing and illustrating books since 1992. This is her bio. I was born in 1957 and grew up in Pennsylvania near Philadelphia. Maybe I was onto something about the Pennsylvania Dutch. I have a brother and two sisters. My parents encouraged us to make things, to read, to draw, and to play outside. I attended Germantown Friends School, Riggerike Volk. Oh my goodness. I think this is German. No, it's not. It's not. It's Norwegian. Riggerike Folkehog Skole. Sorry if I butchered that. In Norway. Cornell University, and the School for American Craftsmen at RIT. What's a RIT? Is that like Rhode Island Institute of Technology? I don't know. Where I got a BFA. And I have a teaching certificate from UW, and I taught art to children for several years, mostly at the Bush School. Where is that? Since 1991, I have been painting and illustrating full-time. I have had many shows of my paintings and of various other works, including cut paper, embroidery, and bread. I illustrate books, I design fabric, and make quotes. My work flows in many directions, but all of the ideas and creations are connected. I live in Seattle with my husband, Joe Max Eminger. He is a painter. I still like to make things, to read, draw, and play outside. The work I do in one area inspires the work in others. Ideas beget ideas. Well, I am very inspired. I'm inspired by looking at her work. It's so creative. It actually reminds me kind of my Uncle Richard's work, because he would fill up the entire page with patterns. And that's some of the work I did as a child. But yeah, I'm just really digging her style, and I want to do something in her style. So please be sure to go to her website. I will post it in the description box below. So now we will get started on the book review. I won't read the whole book, but I'll read some of the things that stood out to me. So it starts off with, in the beginning, there was only darkness. And when they have the words, it has her little illustrations, and then it has the country that the creation story came from. So in the beginning, there was only darkness, that came from China. Also, this book was published in the year 2016. So it is not that old. In the beginning, there was only water. In the beginning, there was fire and ice. In the beginning, there was a single drop of milk. So these are from Fiji, Norway, and Mali. In the beginning, there was only water. So maybe it's saying water because, I don't know exactly the environment Fiji is, but perhaps it's near the ocean, and that's why whatever geographical location of the creation story, maybe all of the creation stories, what they had in common was the starting point looked like where you lived. Like if you lived in a hot climate, it wouldn't be like, oh, everything started off cold. It might have been like it was created by fire. Like Norway, in the beginning there was fire and ice. I don't know how the weather in certain parts of Norway are. In my imagination, it might get really cold, but I'm not sure. I'm not like geographically savvy. It could have completely different temperatures, but fire, ice. If it gets ice, you have a desire for fire. You have a desire for warmth. Now, as in like Mali, in the beginning, there was a single drop of milk. I mean, milk is basically considered sacred in all different parts of the world. You have the cow's milk, you have your mother's milk that sustains and nourishes you. Even in like traditional Chinese medicine, the milk of the mother is very healing. I think there was a story, I don't know if it was in TCM, of an elderly lady who had no teeth, and she nursed at her daughter-in-law's breasts and grew teeth because of the milk, the nourishment of her milk, because she couldn't eat. She was starving to death. So another interesting factor is sometimes the creator is a man and sometimes the creator is a woman. Because in the past, you had a lot of places that were just either had a matriarchy or had the goddess as their main creator, because they're like, well, my mother gave birth to me, my mother brought me into this world, the earth is a mother. Even we call the earth a mother. So in Egypt it says, nothing existed but the first God. How did he come to be? He created himself by speaking his own name. So that's Egypt. That kind of reminds me of the biblical story where like God spoke in Genesis and things came to be based off of what God said. And I'm only using that as my example because like I was raised in a Christian school, so that story was already drilled in my head. So most of the stories that I compare to the one I was taught comes from that basis. The closest story I've ever seen that is almost similar to the Bible is this Hawaiian creation myth. Like it literally sounds exactly like all you have to do is switch the names and it's the exact story. So I think that was pretty interesting. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So the power of the Word. But over here in Greece, it says, the goddess of all things produced an egg. It floated on the water with the serpent coiled around it for protection. When it hatched, out came the sun and the planets, the moon and the earth. So look, it's a serpent. What if the egg is like, like the woman's egg? And what if the serpent is sperm? Or what if the serpent is like the umbilical cord? Because, when the baby is born, it's still attached to its mother, or the placenta. See, I'm bad at like birth and all that science, but, the umbilical cord. And in some practices, they'll like keep the umbilical cord attached until it falls off. They'll dry it, or some cultures will eat the umbilical cord, or not the umbilical cord, like the placenta, different things. So that's pretty interesting. In Israel, it says, God said, let there be light, and light appeared. In Alaska, there was no light on earth. Then ravens stole a ball of light and dropped pieces of it so people could see. Interesting. So what if the pieces of the ball of light were actually the stars? Then on the Banks Islands, I don't know where that is, it says, night didn't exist until the god, it's Quat, so it might be Quat, brought it from another island. He released it from his hands, and the sky went dark. Then Quat showed his brothers how to make beds from coconut fronds and how to lie down and sleep. I really love how her style kind of changes with every culture. Like she kind of has the art style of that culture too, or of that group of people. What's interesting is a lot of the islands or anybody based around the ocean, I see more water than I do fire. Water, 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 water. I mean, we are born in water. We live in water, amniotic fluid. We need water to sustain ourselves. We need water for crops. So I could see why there's seems to be more of a theme of water than there is fire. And then even the darkness. What if the creation story is actually the creation of ourselves? Like, what if the universe is the womb? Because nobody really can see what's happening in the womb. I mean, they have all sorts of technology going on. Like, oh, I can see it. But do you really see it? Do you really? You can take snapshots and everything. But you're never there every single second through the process of things, you know? It's complete darkness. There was a book called, I don't know, Birth Without Harm or Birth Without something. And it talks about when a child is born, you're bringing them from, they're already in darkness and water, and you're just bringing them to all these bright lights and stimuli, and how having a water birth or something of that nature is easier on the child. I mean, just imagine you're in your mother's womb for most often 9-10 months. You're in fluid, you're in amniotic fluid, you're like warm in the dark, and then all of a sudden you just pushed out or cut out. You're in this bright light, there's all of this noise, you have doctors, you have all these different hands. It can be very traumatizing. It might be called Birth Without Trauma, Birth Without Fear, Trauma. I don't know when this book was written, but okay. I don't know what the title was called. But in India, it says, Earth spoke, Prajapati, and the earth came to be. Earth spoke, Prajapati, and the earth came to be. So, Prajapati spoke, and the earth came to be. Said God, and all the islands in the ocean were created, Marshall Islands. And then in Nigeria, it says, all was water. Then Obatala climbed down from the sky with a snail shell filled with earth, the first dry land. I also think is very interesting how it's just sound. I know I mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to elaborate more on it. Just sound, vibration, the tones of things can alter your physiology. You can literally destroy a building with sound. You can change things with sound technology or certain frequencies, A lot of the conscious people say this, but it's true. One of like the biblical stories I can think of is the Wall of Jericho. They went around the Wall of Jericho 7 times. 7 times. Just noise, noise, noise. Even when you're sitting in a car and somebody's passing by just blasting whatever music they're blasting, you can feel the vibration of that into your body. You're just like, ooh, I can feel it. Oh my God. And then they pass and you can still feel it. Even your whole car shakes when they pass by. So I feel creating with words is something that a lot of people should try. Whether it's a prayer, whether it's chanting or mantras, I'd say my mantras and make things happen. I just chant them over and over and over. Pray to God or so. So it keeps going on with the creation stories. All the animals are formed. Oh, look at this. This one is beautiful. Oh, look at that. That one's Australia. The Sun Mother went into a cave. She woke the insects waiting there and led them out. She entered another cave and woke the lizards, then the frogs, then the birds. Then here comes the part about people being made. And this part is going to be really interesting, so I'm going to read you most of them. So Egypt. I will make people, said the sun god Ra. From his own tears, the first humans were born. From his own tears. Water. Banks Islands. Quat made the first humans out of wood. I don't know if it's Quat or Cot. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. They lay there lifeless. Bring me my drum, he said. When he beat it, the humans began dancing and came to life. What if the drum represents the heart? What if the drum is your beating heart? What if the people are the trees? Trees are like us. They have their own blood. As they get older, most of their bark gets wrinkled, but they can live thousands and thousands of years and they can always reproduce. Or almost all of the time until they can't reproduce anymore. Spider Woman. This one's from Arizona. Spider Woman mixed 4 earths together, black, white, red, and yellow. She covered them with her cape and sang the creation song over them. When she pulled back her cape, the first humans were there. So, the 4 triangles, okay. Black, white, yellow, red. I guess those represent 4 races. 4 races. You have black people, white people, I guess the yellow man and the red man, depending on like who you ask. I think that's what that's supposed to represent. You have Brazil, and it's Karu Sakaibo made the world, and there were no humans. People are living under the earth, Possum told him. The 2 of them made a cotton rope, lowered it into a hole, and waited. Then up climbed the first person. Okay, so that part, almost similar to like, from dust we were made, to dust we return, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Or even like in the book of Genesis where like God made the people out of clay or out of the ground, out of the dirt of the ground, and breathe life into them. But this one I have a couple of different things. Like, okay, you have the dirt. You're also, most people are lowered into the earth when they're dead or in our coffin. They're lowered into the ground and buried. Or the rope. The rope could be a symbol of either the umbilical cord. It could be a symbol of the penis. The hole could be us coming out of a vagina. Just saying, because it says, then up climb the first person. You're either cut out or you're pushed out. You're either cut out or you are pushed out. New Guinea. Gyanji, the creator, heard voices coming from inside a palm tree. What's making that noise, he wondered. He split open the tree and looked upon the first people. He let them out in groups, each speaking a different language. So I like that version because it's basically saying we're connected. Our roots collectively are to the earth, depending on who you ask. Because some people say we came from the stars and different things. But, I mean, we're all connected some way, shape, or form. We are connected to nature, to Mother Earth. We get ground, and we get air, we get food, we get water. We live in this environment, and this environment gives us nourishment. So these are all the faces. There was also a scene in Malidoma Patrice Somme's book of Water in the Spirit where during his initiation, the elders were making all the young guys try to, I guess, hear the message of the tree. And he, in this part, was sitting by the tree for a very long period of time. And he's just like, I don't know what they want me to hear. Like, I don't see anything. I don't feel anything. So we just started lying. And the elders were like, he's lying. So eventually, the spirit of the tree came out and embraced him. And he felt this overwhelming connection and love. He started crying and grabbing onto the tree. It was a spirit that came out. And I guess from the outside looking in, it just looked like a guy crying, hugging a tree. His entire life was changed. I remember reading that book in 2011, or was it 2011? No. It was probably, like 2011, 2012. It was a very powerful book. I'll never forget that story. Then it says, in Fiji, after Ndenge, oh my goodness, Ndengei, is it Ndenge, created humans, he showed them how to build canoes. And then in Saudi Arabia, it says, Allah sent rain from the heavens for people to drink, and olives and grapes for them to eat. This water again. So, then the humans start to develop their own little consciousness, but they get help from higher beings, which I think is pretty interesting. It says the first humans, this is from Peru, the first humans slept in caves and lived like animals. The Sun Father felt sorry for them and sent 2 of his children to earth. Watch what we do, they said, and they taught people how to till the soil and build houses, how to make shoes, and how to weave wool. Then in Greece it says, 2 brother gods created animals and people. One gave animals strength and speed, wings and claws, and heavy fur for winter. What's left for humans, complained the other. To help them survive, he lit a torch from the sun and gave people fire. I just think it's interesting that the number is 2, like, because I swear there was like 2 angels in the book of Genesis after Adam and Eve got kicked out or evicted from the garden. It was either 1 angel or 2 angels that was guarding the gardens. But I just think it's fascinating that these higher beings had to come down and teach these people, because naturally it probably would have taken too long. And then now they're saying like, oh, we have alien DNA. I can believe that. I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm not knocking the idea, you know. I haven't been outside of this entire universe. I haven't gone through a black hole or gone to another dimension that I can remember or am conscious of. So there could be a chance that some type of higher entities was feeding humans information in order to cause them to develop faster. I really don't know. But I just think it's interesting that two different stories in two different places are saying the same thing. In Mozambique, it says once the first humans were made, the animals watched to see what they would do. They killed animals. They set fires in the forest, driving creatures from their home. They are burning and killing everything, cried the god, Mulungu. Wow. But aren't we still doing that to this day? Like, we're just like, well, not us, but, you know, some type of diabolical group of people just going around trashing the earth and destroying resources for their own selfish gain. Most of the majority of people would not operate in that way. Like, most people just want to get by and have enough food and nourishment and land to grow food for their family and just live their best lives. But then you have some people out here that's just like, I'm just going to make life unnecessarily harder for you just because I can. And I'm going to put all this stuff in your food. I'm going to put all this stuff in your water. I'm going to take all your resources too. Well, what you going to do about it? I feel like that at the core is what this story is talking about. Like, you have us regular people, and then you have these like diabolical people, if I can even call them people, because at a certain point, I'm just starting to believe that these people are literally not humans. I don't know what they are, but I'm not knocking the idea that whatever crazy, evil, wicked group is doing this is not of the human race. They might look like a human, but perhaps they aren't a human. Just wearing the clothes of a one. And then in Gabon, it says, God was angry with humankind. Thunder, come, he called. Thunder came running. Boom, boom, boom. You and lightning shall set fire to the earth. So obviously, humans went into moral depravity, and the creator was like, I'm going to get rid of all of you. We're going to clean house. Kind of like the story of the Great Flood. And lo and behold, there is a great flood. There's a great flood in 4 different stories. One from Mexico, one from Israel, one from California, and one from Iraq. And what's interesting is that every single story contains a boat. So in Mexico, it says, the gods met on a mountaintop and ordered the water god to flood the earth. Before he did, he went down and found one couple. Cut down an I can't pronounce this. Ahuete, Ahuete tree, he told them. Ride it when the water comes. So they're making a raft out of the tree. That's one. That's Mexico. Then God caused it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. The water rose up the mountainsides, then higher than the peaks. This is from Israel. Well, that's Noah's Ark. I'm wondering if the 40 days of mourning, I think it's from that group in Israel, where it's like somebody dies and you mourn for 40 days and 40 nights. I'm wondering if that's also related to the flood. California, it says, but Condor and his wife wove a basket and floated in safety. So 2 birds. And then in Iraq, the great boat that Utnapishtim had built came to a rest on a mountaintop. He released a dove. When it flew back, he knew the land was still underwater. He freed a swallow. It came back as well. And when he released a raven, it never returned. It had found land. Exactly like the Noah's Ark story, except the name is completely different. The name is completely different. And then they're on top of it came to rest on a mountaintop. So, in like the biblical story, it'd be Mount Ararat or Ararat. Me personally, I feel like there was a flood. Sometimes if you just have enough stories all over the world that aren't connected with each other, it was an actual event that occurred on this planet. Personally, I feel there was a flood. And that's why you see it in all of these different creation myths. I don't really know what caused the flood. Some people say it was the punishment of God. Some people say it was like the destruction of Atlantis or something. I don't know. But I just think it's interesting that all of these stories have, or almost all these stories have, the flood in common. Then it says, Norway, the world was consumed with fire, but the world tree that connects the earth with the heavens survived. Safe inside its bark were one man and one woman. That's Norway. Bring fire and an ear of corn, the water god had told the good couple. They'd done so. Slowly the flood waters receded until the couple could step onto land. The man dug a furrow. The woman planted a handful of corn kernels. The sun warmed the earth. This is Mexico. And then it says, and life began again. Ooh. I like that. Even after everything is destroyed, even after everything falls apart, it's just a new beginning. It's just a new beginning. And I think that's a good lesson to learn. No matter what happens in your life, whether you have a relationship end or a career end or something that seems like the world is over, it really isn't over. It's just a step in a new direction. It's to show you that you may need to reevaluate things and focus on what is truly important. Or sometimes it's so you can appreciate what you have or have some type of humility. Sometimes you have to lose everything in order to have humility, or in order to see the beauty of something that you've never paid attention to before. Like, for example, when I was sick in 2017 and I was in bed for a month, I was so grateful just to be back outside, standing without falling. I was so grateful to eat food without my throat burning and the food passing through my body and not nourishing me. When I came back to my hometown after being stuck with that crazy dude in Hawaii, I was so grateful to take a warm shower, like with running water, where I didn't have to go through an entire process to get warm running water. I could just turn on a faucet and there was running water. Like laying down in my own bed, having my own place, just the little things, working, having a job. I was grateful for those things. I was grateful to see my city again, even though like sometimes it gets on my nerves. I'm still grateful. So yeah, with every ending is a new beginning. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope that you go check out this book and perhaps do a dramatic reading, and check out their other books and their other artwork. So talk to you later, everyone, and happy reading. Bye-bye.